Uh, um, my stepsister is Jeannie.
Jeannie. And
we did have a relationship when we were younger.
And what was?
And she's just as guilty as I am.
So
she's trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, like she's Miss Innocent and all this and that. Well, she's not.
As I look around at all the support Donald Wells is receiving, it made me want to look into some things, trying to determine what a real victim looks like, so I can remind everybody Donald Wells is not a victim here. Not at all. Not by a long shot. Yes, his daughter is missing. No, he might not be guilty. But he is not a victim. This is not about him. He is guilty of something, and it does matter. Like all abused children, I never told out of fear. Fear that I did something wrong. Fear that my mom wouldn't believe me. Fear that she wouldn't keep me safe from him, and he would hurt me worse. Even in my little mind, I knew that it was her husband's son, and I didn't know who she would believe. My saving grace was moving to a new neighborhood. Once we did that, my stepbrother didn't live with us anymore. I had to repeat the 4th grade because my grades were so bad. I was tested. Nothing. I remember feeling so different than all my classmates, like I had something to hide. My thoughts were constantly consumed in class, and I was distracted. When I was 10, I finally told my mom, when you don't check in on your kids, you don't give them an opportunity to talk. But this day she did. I had sex education at school, and she asked if I had any questions. I didn't. But what I did say was, that's what Ronnie would do to me. I will never forget that sentence, and I will never forget her sobbing on the bed. The days that followed consisted of a gynecologist exam, an interview with a detective, and talking with a child psychologist. My parents asked if I wanted to press charges, and I did. It didn't take too long for them to tell me they didn't want to put me through the court trauma. My stepbrother was a minor when the abuse started, and it would be hard to try him as an adult. So I never saw justice. He never had to register as a sex offender, and no one ever knew what he did. The woman he married and the son he has will never know. All the kids that came into contact with him when he was a dad would never know. The justice that I did have was my stepdad choosing me over his son. My stepdad was a retired police officer and was sickened by what his son had done to me. Sometimes, when I think about how unfair our justice system can be, I remind myself his justice was living with the choice my dad made. Me. A lot has happened between then and now. I'm 42, married, and have 4 children. My stepdad has died, and the impact of the abuse has forever changed all areas of my life, in every life stage. I actually don't know a life without abuse because I was so young. Biggest impact it's had on me is when I became a mother. That's why I'm writing this. For you, for me, for the safety of children. To empower moms and educate them on how they can protect their kids and how common childhood sexual abuse is. I once had a friend tell me she hardly knew anyone that had been sexually abused as a child. I said, that's because you weren't abused. When you are abused and start to share your story, it does some things. It heals you, it connects you with other survivors, and it gives you a voice to educate people. I pray my story has given you that voice. Be that brave, not only for yourself, but for your children. If you have been affected by sexual violence and need help, we urge you to reach out to RAIN's National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE or hotline.rain.org/online. This story comes from the Child Rescue Coalition.org, and it serves as a reminder that there are real victims in the world. You shouldn't have to live with it. We go and uplift the abusers because they didn't speak up sooner, because it happened so long ago, or because their daughter is missing. Can't break the cycle if you enable it. I think true crime is really about speaking for the victims. But we have to be clear on what the victim really looks like, who they really are. Donald Wells is not a victim. He is an abuser. Period.
My stepsister Jeannie.
Jeannie. And
Yeah,
what,
and we did have a relationship when we were younger.
and what was
And
the,
she's just as guilty as I am.
so
She's trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes like she's a Miss Innocent and all this and that. Well, she's not.
to walk me through that. Help me understand.
I would rather not, but so we kind of had a relationship when we were younger. Yeah, I was a bit older. I had a dirt bike, you know. I don't know how old I was exactly, but she started dating her cousin, which was about 12 years old at that time. And ever since then, she just wanted me out of the picture. Ever since then. And it started all this hateful stuff ever since then.
And how old were you?
You know, I don't know. Maybe 15, I don't know.
And how old was she?
I don't know. You know, she was a lot younger than me, you know, and I thought this, and I remember thinking this, why would, I didn't think it was right. You know, but I was too young to understand how girls are too.
Walk me through that. So when you say you didn't think it was right, what were you guys?
Well, because she was younger. Because she was younger. No, she would play with my thing and I would play with hers. And that's about it. I mean,
Okay. And how long did that go on?
I don't know, for a little while or whatever, but like when everything changed.
And who's Ronnie?
That she ended up marrying him and having kids. That's her cousin.
And what about this other person you mentioned, Tish? What's her name?
Her daughter's name was Trish, and the last time I seen her, she was just a little girl. And then the other girl, I'm not sure who she even is.
Okay.
I don't know. They're all family. I hate my guts.
Right.
That's fine. They don't want me around Dad. That's fine. Whatever. So I just don't call.
But Donnie called. So after I had made my statements, Donnie called my grandfather and told him what I had said, and my grandfather said that I was kicked out of the family and he never wanted to see me again. And I said, okay, because I mean, I'm not doing it. A lot of people think that, we did this for attention or like our 15 minutes of fame, and that is not it at all. I did it because people need to know what, I mean, his older children went through. I witnessed horrible, horrible things throughout their childhood, and um, I I feel like it's relevant, completely relevant to the case. And I don't know. I'm 100% unbiased on whether either parent had anything to do with summer parents. I have no idea. I cut Donnie out of my life a long time ago, but I felt like she needed an advocate and that I needed to speak up for her, and so I did. And then when my mom posted everything yesterday, um, he called my grandpa again, and my grandpa is confused and hurt, and he said she's kicked out of the family, and he'll get over it. I know he will, but when you're first coming out as a victim, to not have the support, especially from your parent, is extremely, extremely difficult.
Okay, so True Crime Sisters, they put their I don't know, it's kind of like an imprint on the page, like with their logo, so everybody knows where it came from. And I appreciate that they did this. I think it's extremely important. Okay, so she says, hello. My daughter told me you were one of the admins of Summer Wells' page that I'm a part of. I am DW's sister and was abused by him from a young age. I have a post that I wanted to share, but wanted to ask if it would be allowed, and if so, how do I do that? Thank you. So then she proceeds to say, I am one of the people who DW sexually abused. For me, it started when I was 4 years old and lasted until he first went to prison when I was around 10. My daughter, who I'm not going to name, has made a few posts about this and is now getting backlash, and was told by the patriarch of our family that she is no longer allowed to be in or a part of the family for dragging his name through the mud. Oh, let me do this. Here you go. Okay. He's denying any of this happened, even though at the time it was not only addressed, but witnessed more than once. A lot of you ask questions like, if this happened, then why isn't he in jail? Why wasn't he arrested? This right here is exactly why. This is a lot. I can't see exactly what she wrote here. I think it says there is a lot of abuse in our family history. So it says not solely surrounded by DW, but it seems like it's become the norm to just not talk about it. Don't tell anyone, sweep it under the rug type of mentality. All her daughter, this woman's daughter, was trying to do was break the cycle and stand up for what's right in hopes that it could possibly give clues to Summer's disappearance. I'm not sure why so many choose to look the other way in instances like this, but they do. As far as the abuse, drug use, babies with diapers so dirty they were full of maggots, all completely true. Just for clarity, I'm talking about his first son and daughter, who are now in their 30s. Some of you ask why nothing was done, why the kids weren't taken away. DW was never one to stay in one place very long, but the majority of the years his two oldest children were growing up, he was in Utah. We all knew they were misfit parents. They would come to my parents and visit a lot, and also lived there off and on. Every second we could, we would bathe the kids, dress them in clean clothes, feed them, and hold and love them. CPS was called all the time, but nothing would ever come of it. Family members were constantly offering to take the kids, and one even tried to adopt them, but they always refused. When the state would start breathing down their necks, they'd up and leave the state, sometimes in the middle of the night. None of you have any idea how hard we all tried to do right by these kids. Every time we'd call CPS, we'd all wait for the call. Everyone was ready to take them in, but that call never came. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, mostly because I could go on for hours, but I'm not going to just sit by while my daughter gets criticized for trying to give insight on what might have happened to Summer. My past does not sway me either direction. If DW or Candace had anything to do with Summer's disappearance, but I do think certain things should be noted. And DW, if you want to confront me directly, then bring it on. You know the things you did to me, the secret motorcycle rides down the railroad tracks, the dare games you would play, the "if you don't want me to die, don't tell anyone" comments coming into my room every single night, and 7-year-old me trying to force on as many pairs of pants that I could to deter you before I went to bed. The apology you gave me while you were in Utah recently and this past week, calling dad, lying, and trying to get sympathy from a heartbroken man with Alzheimer's. So pathetic. I hope and pray this baby girl is found safe and sound. She deserves a chance for a better life. We all love you so much, Summer Wells. You can post this openly also. Thank you so much. So the girl responded, okay, thank you. Heart, heart. And then she said, can I just screenshot it and share? I'm so sorry you lived through this nightmare.
This story comes from Cafe Mom, and it's titled, Getting My Father Convicted for Sexual Abuse is the Hardest Thing I've Done, and I'd do it all over again. A Cafe Mom contributor. Trigger warning. Content contains explicit details of sexual abuse, incest, and child abuse. This story was written by Deanna Hines and edited by Lauren Gordon for length and clarity. My name is Deanna Hines. First and foremost, I am a survivor. I was the fourth born in my family out of 5 children. My eldest sister, who is 8 years my senior, remembers her first experience of sexual abuse by our father at 3 years old. When she was around 6, there was a DCFS report that included allegations against our father for sexual abuse. This was the first time on record that my mother was made aware of my father's abuse. When I was born 2 years after that, I entered into an established, chaotic, and sexually abusive household. My parents were not good with finances, though they both worked. We often had major utilities like heat, electricity, and water shut off. Our actual house was in shambles. A bowing and leaking roof, mold, water damage, and unclean conditions throughout each room. I can't honestly put a number to the amount of times I was abused. So much of my childhood is foggy and unclear. What I can say is that I endured sexual abuse from as early as I can remember, around 4, until the day after I turned 18 and fled from my childhood home. There were times when my father would brush up against me in his robe, try to pull my towel off of me after getting out of the shower, make vulgar comments about my body. and grabbed my breast as I would walk by him. It wasn't until years later that I considered these interactions as abuse. I thought it was just how fathers treated their daughters. There are two instances I do remember, and ultimately the ones that would be my father's downfall. In 1997, after a daddy-daughter dance, my father abused me. I remember thinking how uncomfortable I was and confused as to why he was doing that. At one point, someone had come into the house and told me to run and hide. When he called me back down the hallway to his bedroom, he asked if I wanted more. I remember shaking my head no. That is where my memory goes blank. The second instance of abuse, where the state's attorney could attach a criminal charge, occurred between 2004 and 2006. I had fallen asleep next to my mom in her bed. Since the bed I shared with my younger sister was full of other families spending the night, my mom must have woken up earlier than me and left me alone in her bed with my father. I woke up to him abusing me. I was frozen for a few seconds, and then I opened my eyes. Immediately, my father stopped moving and pretended to be asleep. After another moment, I said out loud, "I need an aspirin." Felt like I needed to verbalize an excuse to leave his bed, as if him molesting me weren't enough of a reason to flee. I went downstairs where my mom was getting ready and told her what I had woken up to. During one of these interrogations, she asked me if this had ever happened before, and I told her about the daddy-daughter dance. At one point, she told me, "Maybe you should talk to your sister. She went through it too." My mother is a very cruel and harsh woman. Even though my father was sexually abusive, she controlled him and set the tone of our home. She would spit on us children, refuse to give us lunch or lunch money as punishment, and sleep deprive us. In my teen years, she would accuse me of allowing my father to touch me and state she would have never let her father do that. I did, however, take her advice and talk to my sister. Found out he has also abused her, though I wouldn't know the extent of her abuse until 2015. I told her what our father had been doing to me and that I was scared. Listened and then dropped me back off at home. Years later, she told me that when I disclosed to her, she was relieved that she wasn't going through it anymore. At the time, she was unable to really process what I was telling her. Even though she was an adult at that point, she had never confronted her own abuse and therefore was not emotionally able to help me. In early 2009, during my junior year of high school, I was offered a scholarship to play Division I soccer. I accepted and began a countdown to my 18th birthday. Finally had a light at the end of the tunnel, a way to get out, and a way to leave without the help of my parents. The day after I turned 18, I left my childhood home for the last time with nothing but my soccer bag. I was heading to school and had no real plan except to go to practice that afternoon. My boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband and the father of our son, was told to stop seeing me. My parents did not like how close we were and were afraid of me telling him about their abuse. I made the choice not to return home that day. It was the first time I truly defied them. That decision set off a chain reaction from my parents. They tried calling police, my school, my high school soccer coach, and even my future college coach to try and force me home. Still, I refused. I couldn't bring myself to tell everyone why I truly stayed away. Shame and embarrassment I felt about the sexual abuse was still too powerful to overcome. Instead, I stated simply that they were abusive and I wanted nothing to do with them. Seeing as I was legally an adult, there was nothing anyone could do. Felt, for what might have been the first time in my life, that I had the power to make decisions. My parents attempted to have my scholarship taken from me and end my journey before it began. Ultimately, they failed at doing so. I graduated from college in 2014 with a bachelor's in family social services, focusing on helping those in crisis. When my sister and I went to police in 2015, they were only able to take the 2 instances of abuse I recounted and attach them to charges. It was 5 years after I had left home, and both my sister and myself decided we weren't going to cover him anymore. We suffered through harassment from our biological family. They supported our father and either didn't believe our allegations of abuse or thought we should just keep them to ourselves. I told my sister I was sick of being called a liar or an attention seeker for wanting to speak openly about the home we grew up in. That is when she fully disclosed what our father had done to her. Starting at 3, he was sexually abusive to her. At age 9, he raped her for the first time and continued to do so well into her teenage years. We decided together that was enough. Sister and I spoke with a legal advocate at work. She helped us determine that we were still within the statute of limitations. Our father could still be brought up on criminal charges if there was sufficient evidence. Next, we went to the sheriff in the county where the crimes occurred. We had to interview with detectives and have it taped, as our testimony counted as evidence. The sheriff had to conduct a complete investigation, including going over old DCFS case files, interviewing possible witnesses, and researching what we told them. My sister, the bravest woman I know, participated in a phone tap with our father and at a later date wore a wire when she visited him at work. At the conclusion on the investigation, the sheriff and state's attorney were able to charge our father with 10 criminal felonies, 2 for the abuse against me and 8 for the abuse against my sister. Those recordings my sister helped obtain were played in court and showed the judge what our father was like when he believed no one was listening. After years of waiting, dealing with harassment from our mother, and fearing the unknown, a trial was finally set. Our trials and charges were severed, meaning there would be 2 separate trials for my sister and myself. A motion was granted shortly after that allowed us to testify at each trial. On November 1st, 2018, my sister underwent hours of testimony and cross-examination. On November 2nd, I testified, as well as a woman who made the original report to DCFS back when my sister was just 6 years old. My mother and 2 of my sisters testified for my father. On November 28, 2018, our father was found guilty and convicted for 6 of the 7 charges brought against him by my sister. He was sentenced to a total of 60 years in prison, but will serve between 9 and 18 years due to sentencing guidelines when the crimes occurred. On April 11, 2019, my father took a plea deal for the 2 remaining charges that pertain to my abuse. For avoiding a second trial and admitting to his actions, he was sentenced to 6 years. On May 5th, 2020, I will be celebrating 10 years of abuse-free living. I consider that date a day of rebirth, and the start of my current life. In these 10 years, I have become a wife, college graduate, a mother, and an advocate for those who are still suffering through sexual abuse. I hope people understand that waiting for a trial to be set is excruciating. It's fearing the unknown and that your future is in the hands of people who did not experience what you experienced. It's dealing with harassment from people you once considered family. It's living with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and navigating through thoughts of suicide and trying to unlearn what you were taught as a child. I am unlovable, I am unwanted, and I am broken. I hope people understand coming forward only leads to justice a fraction of the time. Most often, it can lead to feeling victimized all over again. I can't say that I felt sad, but I did have a weird feeling of guilt, like I had done something wrong. But after going through therapy, I now understand that is what I was groomed and manipulated to feel. Implementing Aaron's Law as an adult has given me the opportunity to heal through educating others. Working with a fellow survivor, my boss and mentor, Victor Pacini, and founder of Be Seen and Heard, I'm able to tell children we were never taught growing up. Your body belongs to you. You have a right to say no, even to grown-ups. You have a right to fight for your body. One person doesn't believe you, tell someone else. If someone you love hurts you, it's still okay to tell. It's never too late to tell. The evil that is sexual abuse breathes in secrecy and darkness and thrives on silence and complicity. I cannot change our past, but I can certainly use it to change our future. If there is one thing I can ask of anyone who reads this, please educate your children, empower them, believe, support, and validate them, protect them. There is power in the words we use and the language that we teach our children. Though it was years of pain and uncertainty, I would go through the process of getting him convicted all over again. First of all, I know the outcome. We saw justice, and now, no, he can no longer hurt children. Second of all, I needed to speak openly about the truth of my childhood. Keeping it on the inside for so many years felt like a slow-acting poison, killing me a little more each day. Living authentically and without unsafe secrets is freedom in its purest form, and I hope all survivors have the opportunity. Now, how can they have the opportunity to feel that if we enable people like Donald Wells for whatever reason? And not right. So today I choose to support the true victims. I don't give a damn about Donald Wells and what he's been through, he's going through, and how he feels. None of it. Now, if you do, as usual, each his or her own. But I'm taking that stance today. Loud and clear. Down with Donald Wells. Down with Donald Wells. Justice for Summer Wells. And I pray to God he never hurt that little baby girl. He's innocent of that, so be it. But he is guilty of sexually abusing. This we know for a fact. You heard him say it with his own ears. It's up to you who and what you choose to support. Right is right and wrong is wrong. What Donald Wells did. I'll see you in the comments, beautiful people.
My stepsister Jeannie.
And
we did have a relationship when we were younger.
And what was?
And she's just as guilty as I am. So she's trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes, like she's Miss Innocent and all this and that. Well, she's, she was a lot younger than me, and I thought this, and I remember thinking this. Why would I didn't think it was right? I was too young to understand how girls are too.
Walk me through that. So when you say you didn't think it was right, what were you guys?
Well, because she was younger. Because she was younger. No, she would play with my thing, and I would play with hers, and that's about it.